Cool.
Yeah.
You want to lead off with telling us a little bit about yourself and Story Protocol and how you came here?
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to give a quick background on how I started Story Protocol. I've been always interested in the intersection of media, entertainment, and tech. And it's something that you always experience every day, and you're reading news articles to, watching TikTok videos. And, I've been always interested from a very young age, like, what goes behind this? How does this work? How do they make money? And the first company that I've done was around journalism and tech. It was a pre-Substack, and trying to basically help journalists and bloggers to make money when advertising revenue was just taken off because of Google and Facebook social marketing. The second one was basically Radish, which is a mobile serialized fiction platform. And with the shift to mobile, there was this huge kind of opportunity and a challenge for publishers to make money from mobile, from publishing or fiction. And we basically kind of combined Candy Crush styles mobile micropayment with kind of this snackable, serialized, rapid serialization content. And the company grew nicely to tens of millions of revenue. But the challenge that I really had with that company at the very end was that we were relying on Facebook and Google, all these big tech companies, to get the distribution and discovery that we want. So if you are a mobile publisher of gaming or this kind of content platforms, you end up spending, half of your VC money or a lot of your VC money to get noticed. And as I think about that, I really try to figure out how do I, that company ended up partnering with Kakao. And when after that, I've been thinking about, I want to really try to figure out more structural problems. It's not about like, I've been making content and try to produce content and distribute the content. How can I change the rules of production and distribution of content? And frankly, I always really envied people who are building network effect-driven products. Really, the Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, when they started, probably they're not spending that much UA money. They're like getting word of mouth. They're getting bootstrapping network effect. People want to share their content on their own. So how do we create a network out of content? How do we get, when you produce a piece of content, when you produce a piece of IP, instead of relying on these big tech companies like Facebook, Google to sending them money to get noticed or kind of pray for like algorithmic miracle, how do you get incentivized and really empower the fans and creators around you to evangelize the content? Not only that, but also really build on top of you so that you are not basically relying on your own creativity, your own intelligence to basically get the best hit content. So that was the motivation to start with. And especially what I was surprised by when I was looking at Web3 IP, when we started thinking about Story Protocol, it was like this spring of last year. I saw stuff like Bored Apes. I saw all these NFT projects. Some of them didn't end up becoming as sustainable, but what was so exciting about that was they weren't spending any ad money. They were actually, all these holders of the NFT, they became their own evangelist. You've seen people who hold Bitcoin, how religious they're about sharing and evangelizing their coin. So I was very excited by the fact that now this is applying to content. There's a way to create a network around your IP. That's how I really thought about, got excited by blockchain's ability to create a network, assign ownership at scale around an IP. So that's, and how do we create rules around that?
Yeah, I remember you were telling me yesterday that I think fanfiction.net, despite it being, 20 years old, 15 years old, and terrible UI, is still a top 20 website?
Top 100 website.
Top 100 website. I used to write for fanfiction.net, but it's crazy how strong those network effects are, right? When you have content, when you have readers, it has some staying power for sure. Yes. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, why blockchain and what kind of opportunity Story Protocol and the world building of IP that is unique for blockchain in particular, and why you decided to build in like Web3?
I think I wasn't very clear about what Story Protocol is. just to kind of really explain it straightforwardly, for this kind of tech NFT focused audience, we are building, I think the closest mental model of what we're building is we're Git for IPs with ownership. If you think about Git and GitHub, it allowed global collaboration at scale around software development. And you can go into someone else's software or source code and fork and kind of add on top of it and make a pull request and someone can merge it. In the same way, we're building first a kind of a standard around data structure standard around how to store your IPs on blockchain. And once that will include all the IP information, but also about how you want to let other people build on top of you and have composability around you. So then you have a set of modules, like licensing module, which is kind of what allows you to remix or make a fan fiction out of it legally and commercialize. We have frictionless licensing standards so that people can, without going to all these middlemen, all these lawyers, you can just plug into someone else's IP, extended IP, build on top of it, and the original creator can say, okay, we're gonna do a 30% rev share for if you commercialize my IP, and and you can go build on top, and you can empower all these other creators to build on top of you. So that's kind of that global IP repository and the set of tools and modules to basically extend that IP is what we're building. And the big opportunity, at least within the Web3 space that I saw, was if you look at the Web3 space, there are a lot of these top artists, digital artists that came out from Web3. So you see Fioshis, Pac, Beeple, all these great digital artists. But if you look at it, really, there hasn't been a J.K. Rowling or George R.R. Martin equivalent of talent in Web3 who are scaling using this composability technology, using this kind of ownership technology to basically scale their IP. Because I don't think it's about the fact that the writers don't want to get engaged in Web3. It's the fact that we don't have any way to actually store these kind of rich narrative franchise onto the blockchain. So if NFT, which started as a reference to an image file, but you can't build. Spider-Man started from Spider-Man comic book, not Spider-Man image file, right? So you need to have a way to store these IPs and have the right modules to do it. And at the moment, if you try to store something like Harry Potter on blockchain, you would literally have an image of Harry Potter, image of Hermione, and call it Harry Potter. But you need to have the characters, you need to have the story, you need to have the relation between the characters. And then once that's stored, we need actually a set of licensing modules to make that happen. Because every speaker here has been talking about composability, interoperability. But let's say you own an Azuki, Robin. If I want to actually use your Azuki to build an animation or short animated shorts, I can't do it. I need to get to lawyers. I need to talk to your Twitter DM. It's not possible. So if you really want composability to happen, if you really want Web3 to have the next Marvel, next Harry Potter, you need a way to capture this IP on the blockchain. You need someone to figure out globalized, kind of decentralized licensing set of modules that are going to allow you to frictionlessly license off. So something that's kind of an upgraded version of CC0 it's not just about using someone else's IP for free, but it's about if you use your IP and build on top of it, you can still share the upsides in a very frictionless way.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because you basically have two innovations, right? One is just the rails of how you store information and how the protocol operates and how IP is created and stored. And then the second one is basically an innovation on licensing and how we do business, right? Because, in games, if you want to license a game, it's super complicated. You probably need to know the guy. Hopefully you know the guy because he's probably not going to respond to his code DMs for your Marvel or Disney IP. And then you got to go into an agreement, MGs, royalties, licensing fees, yada, yada, yada. It probably takes half a year to get done. And there's no easy way for all that to be standardized.
If you really want to actually have the licensing rails, you have to have that IP repository with all the IP information, the right kind of information. And also, like, it's Harry Potter is not just an image. There's all these different atomic units you need to have it rich, to have it actually rich, as a rich IP. And then on top of that, you need those licensing modules. Otherwise, at the moment, you see almost like two extremes. One is the CC0, just use it, build on top of me. But there's no value capture mechanism for the IP owner. The second is one-on-one licensing. Let's go to CAA, UTA, WME, or let's go to some lawyer. Let's go to the company and do the one-on-one agreement. So it's like a very two extremes. So there needs to be, in the middle, a very frictionless, customizable, modular licensing rails that people can arm themselves with. Or this can be done individually by a creator, but we can also it's an API call. We can try to be a backend for some other content platforms. So that's important. And I think Web3 has been talking composability, but this is the real IP rails that is beyond just pointer to image files, and real kind of a licensing, remixing rails, which is going to make the composability possible.
Is there any particular format of content that you're particularly interested in, be it comics, stories, manga, games, any particular one that you want to start with, or are you excited about them all?
To be honest, we're excited by all, but given our given my co-founder and I have a very kind of deep kind of root and experience in storytelling, so we definitely want to take a look at storytelling. And that was really what I got excited about. How do you make the next Marvel, the next Star Wars with blockchain? Because at the moment, everyone is just kind of focused on the art, right? So that really excited me from the first place. So that is very exciting. But there are also other fields that are actually so many innovations that are happening with generative AI and so on, so that we want to really take seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is a good time to talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, which is AI, and kind of how you're reacting to it, what your strategy is around it, and what AI will enable for content creation in the future.
I think first of all, I think it's a really great thing, because at the moment, social media and UGC made everyone a creator. Now with AI, generative AI, you're turning from a creator into a creative studio, Hollywood-level creative studio. You can literally imagine a world in 2 or 3 years. You watch the latest episode of something like Game of Thrones or House of Cards, and you come up with a next bullet-pointed ideas about the next kind of episode. You put that into ChatGPT, you get a full script, and you put that full script into a text-to-video model like Runway AI, and you can see like a very 20-minute, rich 20 to 30-minute video of that work. But what's really, they're also, with this huge opportunity for every single creator, there are also big challenges. I think number one is that, let's say YouTube, I think YouTube on every day, there's like few million videos getting uploaded. That will 10 to 100x. Not only that, the quality will 10x or 20x. So as a single creator, or a studio, how do you compete in this world of abundance, a super abundance? That's very, very difficult. Number two, not only that, I think there's a huge copyright dumpster fire coming into you. It's like another Napster moment, because Napster moment is basically distribution costs going to zero. Everyone can basically replicate IP and just put it, upload it, and download it for free. And you had this huge, lawsuits from record labels and all these things. Now, I think we talked about remixing, and we think remixing is a great thing. And this is why we are actually building that licensing rail so that people can openly and encourage and empower to do it. But now you can see with that kind of Game of Thrones, or let's say, Succession AI remix, it's a copyright dumpster fire, because you have the likeness of everyone, all the actors, all the voice, the IP. How do you work that out? How do you get through that? So for us, we think our rails can help out in this world of super abundance of high quality, high quality content or so much content coming out there. For number one issue, that abundance issue, I think the content creators have to realize it's not going to be about just the quality or just distribution. It's going to be about creating community, creating a network around their IP. Like, that's going to be the differentiation when there's 20 million, 30 million content getting dropped every single day. So we want to give out a way for a creator to seamlessly, let's say, okay, like what NFT project said, I created this IP, I'm going to create 10,000 licenses to remix on top of me, and but in return you also have to give me some money, and you use the money to bootstrap the IP. But everyone has some IP skin in the game, and as the IP grows bigger, they remix, they co-build, and and you also as a creator benefit from that creativity. And secondly, for that remixing copyright dumpster issue, I think we can be a real help for legacy IPs as well, because a lot of people will say, okay, play me this song in Taylor Swift style, or play this song in grime style. We want to be able to be a seamless backend layer for these original IP creators and owners to get a payout when all these things are happening. And you can think that the big tech is going to do that, but at the same time, like why we need a stable diffusion and an open source LLM, we need a kind of open source, kind of open layer, kind of a global, transparent repository that's doing all this payout in a very seamless way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing with AI that's interesting to solve is how people will solve discoverability with AI, right? Because you're going to have 10x, 100x more content, like you said, and how are you going to bubble up the best content for people to realize? I think this is something that, for instance, Roblox does super well, right? Because they have a bunch of algorithms that says, hey, you made a game, you have 100 players, what is the engagement of those 100 players? What is their D1, D7, D30 retention? How does that look like? Okay, maybe we'll start bubbling it up based off of that algorithm. So I'm curious to see how you guys solve that discoverability problem. I'm sure you have lots of different ideas. I think one other topic that we should probably cover is your strategy for solving the cold start problem and how you're thinking about just launching the company, launching the protocol, and getting it to scale.
Yeah, so I think it's a very exciting time for us. Like, just about a few hours ago, we officially launched our company, and we obviously, thanks to Andreessen.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks to Andreessen Horowitz, we kind of announced our $54 million fundraising, and that fundraise, we've been at the moment investing a lot of kind of resources into building this infrastructure first, and that global IP repository, all these licensing modules. But at the same time, one of the things from my old experience in the last company is that you do need a really good IPs to kick off this kind of ecosystem, because because of that, we're really talking to a lot of top-notch Hollywood creators or IP creators who are really excited by this technology of scaling ownership, assigning ownership at scale, and using that technology to bootstrap their IP. So we've already have very good few projects that are getting incubated, which we'll announce hopefully in sometime in the future. So I think at the moment, around the kind of the remixing UGC, that kind of the ecosystem, our strategy has been, why don't we have a few great Hollywood level top-notch IP creators to kind of kick off that IP first, and then have other creators remix on top of it, rather than just relying on just have an open system and create a great IP, and hope that things are getting connected. So that's been the approach. But also at the same time, we're looking at various go-to-market strategy. We're talking to many partners, but also we don't need to always be the destination distribution platform. We can help serve other IP projects, NFT projects, or content platforms. We can be the back-end global IP repository. We can be the back-end licensing rail. So it's not about just our first-party apps or applications or IPs getting a destination and distribution. We are happy to work with other distribution platform, other IP with distribution, to figure out how to store their IPs to have so that other people can seamlessly build on top of them. Because at the moment, even for NFT projects, if you try to go to them and say, I want to build on top of you to kind of follow the Web3 ethos, there's no clear way. There's no clear way. Yeah.
So this is not your first time at the rodeo. I think this is your third time founding a company. I'm sure there's a lot of aspiring founders in the audience. Maybe you could share some stories about lessons that you learned from the first 2 times around and what you're excited about for, like, what got you engaged and ready for, like, the third time at the show.
Yeah, I think I started 2 companies. The first one didn't work, so I had to pivot within 2 years and started Radish. But I think the best advice I've had when I was starting off was I have a close advisor and mentor. His name is Charlie Seung. He was ex-head of strategy at Microsoft. He said, like, every startup is an overnight success, but it happens on 1000th night or 2000th night. So I think it does require a lot of persistence, and because you have to pivot. If you believe in that long-term vision, that's just not going to happen in year 1, year 2. So it takes a long time until you get to that breakout moment. And the graph doesn't look like just up and to the right in a very gradual ramp-up way. It's flat for like 3 years, 4 years, and then you have a sudden aha moment, and it grows exponentially, right? So I think that I think whenever I see a new founder who's coming to me, I said, like let's say it's 2023, your startup's going to take off in 2029. Are you fine with that? So I always try to set the right expectation.
Test of their conviction, huh?
Yeah. And then if they come back 10 times, like 5 times, then okay, maybe you should start it because you're going to endure through the. And I think the grit and persistence is the most important. And obviously, you have to be in the right market. The first market for journalism with me was this very, very tough market. So I was very glad I pivoted, but you have to question yourself. It's not about just persisting and just looking at the screen, but you have to every day just critically think of yourself. Is this the right market? Is this the right strategy? So you have to try like 20, 30 different strategies. You're just making a jab every day until it's just the hole gets poked and penetrated. So I think that's important. Secondly, I think why you asked me about, so that advice I think is the most important one, the persistence grit. It's just like, there are a lot of smart people, there's a lot of talented people, but there are not many people who endure for 5 or 7 years. So that's important. Secondly, I think you talked to me about why I plunged into Web3, because when I looked at Web3 from afar, it was always finance. It was always very kind of esoteric infrastructure play. And in 2021, I saw NFT, and I saw NBA Top Shot, I saw Bored Apes Yacht Club. I saw that this technology has a great potential for content, maybe just like the intersection of internet and content produced Spotify and Netflix and all these YouTube and TikTok and all these content platforms. I thought the intersection of content and crypto can bring about the next big Disney, the next Netflix, and it was just starting. I wanted to be early, and to be honest, for mobile, I started in 2016. I was 8 years after it started. I thought the crypto content intersection was just starting off in 2021, and although there were so many people really pumping high, I thought, okay, it's just the early innings. Sometimes dust are going to get settled. There's going to be more opportunity, and I thought, I saw this huge rail missing of, okay, blockchain is about storing this information in a transparent manner. No one's figuring out this fundamental problem. Everyone who's interested in infrastructure is doing DeFi or a very layer 1. No one's doing an infrastructure for content. No one's doing infrastructure for licensing. So that was exciting, number 1. Number 2, I thought looking at all these big NFT projects, everything started from art, right? Everything started from art. But art is great. You can have a Jeff Koons art that sells for $90 million. But it's hard for art to scale and create a next big franchise. Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, none of that started from an image, because you need a storyline to scale. So I thought, okay, things are being done a little bit in reverse on Web3. If we start from a story first and then be able to scale, I think there are some exciting opportunities to create the next big IPs on Web3 too. So that was kind of what got me into it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the things we talk about a lot at Andreessen is riding the next great wave, because the great wave will raise all ships. And so it's very important. It's really hard to time the wave, honestly, because there's the VR wave, there's a Web3 wave, there's an AI wave. These things are hard to predict on whether or not the wave will continue. And now, right, like VR back in 2015, 2016 didn't quite work out then, but now with the Apple Vision Pro, maybe it'll work out now. And I'm hopeful that you'll ride the next great wave with this new startup.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have 4 minutes left. Maybe you could talk a little bit about one question I love to ask, because as a VC, my job is to be very curious and to learn and to always be learning from the great founders. So curious, what's been your greatest learning the last year or so, especially in this bear market and everything, and what's been the hardest thing that you've had to do?
Honestly, I think the bear market has been a little bit of a blessing, because I think the bull market was, there's so much noise, there's so much things happening, but now people who are building now, they really are thinking about the substance. They're really thinking about, because they don't know if the market's going to come back in 2 or 3 or 4 years. They need to focus on something that's sustainable. They're not here to just build, just do a quick flip, right?
You're focused on product, not
you're focused on product value. So I think that's been very clarifying. And I think, as you said, you talked about the wave, and I would love to ask you about what your thought is, because our topic is about AI. But also, as a content media entrepreneur, if the Web3 was a very big, interesting primitive for powering the next big franchise, and also kind of powering the next big IP repository and all this remixing behavior. But at the same time, generative AI is just moving so quickly on the content space. And I think the core of how I view it is, it turns everyone into a studio level creator, abundance, and also it really heightens and scales the quality of content. And now you have to deal with this abundance. You have to deal with this new situation, everyone becoming a creative studio. So, with that, obviously, we are building a content and media ecosystem, and we are building an IP infrastructure, an ecosystem of apps and plugins for IPs. So how do we respond to this behavior? And how do we respond? How do you capture this opportunity? Because we think this AI content may end up, there's already 100 million AI songs that were created in the last 1 year, 15 billion AI images. That's going to be a bulk of the content we see. How do we deal with the IP rights? How do we deal with that? So, I wasn't looking at this behavior this was not part of the vision. But now we have to adapt to vision to really contain this huge wave of content coming in. So that's been difficult. So I also know that you've written a little bit about generative AI in gaming, so I'm pretty curious. What do you think about this kind of new wave coming in?
Yeah, so our thesis on AI in games is we split into 2 parts. The first is weak form AI, and this is basically like AI for production. And so this is like democratizing creation of games, right? So right now you have 2D asset generation, you have text to voice pretty solved. The big one for games is going to be text to 3D, and we have multiple bets in the space trying to go after the text to 3D space. Obviously, there's also like VFX, which is a big one, and a few other adjacencies that will make it way easier. Probably bring down games production, hopefully from $50 million, $100 million to maybe 10, maybe 5. Maybe you can create it in, a week, which is a crazy idea, but maybe that'll happen. Like, I'm not a great coder, but you use ChatGPT code interpreter, and I made Flappy Birds in about an hour. And so it's not crazy to think that this will be way advanced in a year. Or a few years. I think the second piece is strong form AI, which we see as basically what are the new core gameplay loops that are enabled because of AI in particular. And so, for instance,
really increase retention, I guess.
Yeah. Potentially increase retention, new play loops. Think about like, I'm sure some of you have read the Stanford paper on generative agents, but it's basically like The Sims with AI, and what will that look like? We're pretty excited about what that will be, but we're not sure like what exact kind of game is going to result from that. Cool.
Just like you, I'm trying to figure this out on this matter. Yeah.
I know time's up. Any last comments, thoughts for the crowd?
No, so we just launched our company, and we think we really want you to join this wave of open source composable IPs. And we think the more of world's IPs are actually have this more of an open composable IP structure, I think we will unleash more creativity in the world. And we want to have more app developers, ecosystem partners who are going to build with us, because our customers, not only just IP makers, but also developers who are going to build on top of us. So we would love to chat with you during this conference or whenever. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everyone.